Hi everyone, I'm excited. Today I have Chris Reimer from Rizzo Tees to come on the show. And I actually listened to Chris on an interview with one of my favorite video bloggers out there. Name is David Siteman Garland from The Rise to the Top. And during the interview, you were talking about how you started your business, even though you were, you had a full-time job. And to me, that just, I had to get you on the show to talk about how you do that, because there are a lot of my listeners that are in the same situation, trying to figure out how do you balance, running your business and having a full-time job, or even, having a family on the side too. It becomes a thing where you need to figure all these things out. And I said, let me get you on the show to talk specifically about that.
Well, so it's a pleasure for me to be on the show. I thank you very much for your generosity in having me on.
Definitely. And before we continue, I just wanted you to give us some insight and some brief background on who you are, and also introduce your company, because we always do that in the beginning of all the shows.
Certainly. Yeah, and if I talk too long, just kind of like go like this or something. Tell me it's been enough. But
keep going on.
So again, my name is Chris Reimer, and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, middle of the United States, and born and raised here. And I've been telling people this lately, that the reason that I became an entrepreneur, the reason that I started Rizzo Tees, and ultimately the reason why I'm talking to you is because of something that happened way back in the year 1949. Long time ago, or I guess that'd be over 60 years ago. My grandfather, Walter Reimer, started a business here in St. Louis, manufacturing windows for people's houses. And I was born in 1970, and through the mid to late 70s, my grandma would often watch me, babysit me, and she took me to the factory. I hung around that business as a child, and just being around the business and having it having my grandpa talk to me about it and show me around, it kind of, it gave me kind of the entrepreneurial bug, I guess. Of course, I was only, 5, 10, 12 years old, so nothing to do there besides go out on the golf course behind my house and find golf balls that golfers had lost and then sell them back to them. So I actually did that as a child and made pretty decent money. But fast forward to the late 80s, and I'm getting ready to go to college, and I go to Marquette University up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I start on the path to being an accountant. I went to business school and took 4 years of accounting classes and graduated with a degree in accounting, and then in 1995 I actually became a CPA. So this story actually has a lot of different layers. It wasn't just a matter of how did I balance my job and start Rizzo Tees and be a father to 2 daughters. It was actually that I was in a completely different and completely unrelated career, that being a CPA. So basically what happened, I then started working jobs around town here in St. Louis as either a controller or a chief financial officer, and I did that for, I guess I did that for about 15 years. So, when I was always good at math, and I enjoyed business, so accounting came easy to me. I enjoyed it, I guess, as much as possible. I would say, though, honestly, Owen, that through the years, I didn't always identify with my work. I didn't feel that that's who I was, but I always made a good living, and I was able to pay for things and support a family, so maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. But I don't know, maybe I didn't even realize it until now, but for a long time I just didn't quite identify. If you're hanging out with accountants, if you're partying with accountants, you're probably another accountant. We're usually not that much fun. And no offense to all my accounting brothers out there, but long story short, I really wanted to start my own business. But I didn't have any good ideas. The one idea that I did have, I wanted to start a mobile shredding business. These are the trucks that come to your office and they grab your sensitive documents and they shred them on site in the truck. And I really thought that's an up and coming business, and I thought that'd be a great one. And then my wife reminded me that those trucks cost over $100,000, and where would I park it? And how would I go around and make sales calls and try to sell people my service while I had a full-time job? And so that great idea turned into not so great an idea. So I come from this background as a CPA. My last job that I was working, I was the chief financial officer of a not-for-profit organization here in St. Louis. And I started that job back in '06. In October of 2007, it was time for my wife to get me a birthday present. My birthday is in October, and it was just an incredibly busy, stressful time in our life. And so I had actually been surfing the internet, and I had seen some banner ads for some of my now competitors, Snort Tees and Busted Tees being two of the really popular tee sites. And I saw some tees that I wanted, and I just said, hey, do you mind if I just buy my own present? I'll just take care of it myself, and then you don't have to worry about it. And she agreed. She was totally cool with that. And so I ordered some T-shirts, and when they arrived, it instantly, for some reason, I don't know how it happened, it gave me the idea. I liked the shirts. It came in a package with a packing slip, and I had ideas in my head already. I said, I think you just found the business that you could do. This is it. This is the idea you needed. So I don't want to talk the entire time. I want you to ask good questions and everything, but that was the moment when I said, this is the business that I can do, and I started planning for it right away. And so,
from what you say now, it seems that you already had that entrepreneurial bug in you from the very beginning, at least from your grandparents, right? And not only that, you started your job, but you felt something was odd. It wasn't for you, so you already had that also drumming in your head that you needed to find something, and so you spent some time trying to research that opportunity, and then you found that opportunity. So that's where we are right now. So now you found the opportunity. What next?
Yeah, so October 2007, I decided to start the business, and I start planning right away. The way I did that, I'm an accountant. I started up a spreadsheet, right? I have a spreadsheet, and I started putting down every single T-shirt idea, the literal idea that was going to, be on the shirt. Started cataloging every idea I could come up with. If a friend had an idea, I put it on there. If my wife had an idea, I put it on there. So I started cataloging all the ideas. At the same time, I started pencil sketching what I wanted the website to look like. I started, trying to figure out what bank I was going to bank at. How was I going to accept credit cards? And trying to find someone to build my website. And so I did a lot of that work, at night and at times when I had a little bit of availability at work. And so, and I know we'll get into, the hows of that, because I know a lot of people are going to be very interested in how that all worked. But, so I started building, and, my goodness, the first guy that I hired to build my site was such an idiot. I lost almost $500 before I finally said, you're not even doing this. You're not even doing the job. You got to go. And second time, I actually went to some real firms. I went to real firms that build real websites instead of some dude like in his basement. And long story short, I found a really, really good firm, Captiva Marketing, here in town that built a really, really good site for me. But who knows? This entire business and my website might have gone live a lot sooner if I hadn't made a really poor choice with my first, my first choice of web designer. But anyway, all this is going on. Keep in mind also, during this entire year, between October 2007 and October 2008, I'm really not using social media, which is kind of what I do now. I may have had a Facebook account. I don't really remember. I honestly don't remember when I started my Facebook account, but I was not on Twitter. I wasn't blogging. I wasn't doing videos. I wasn't doing video interviews. No one knew who I was. It was completely anonymous for a year as I built the site. So I get the site finished. I get 32 designs set up, folded here in my basement. They're right over there on big shelves. And my site goes live on October 30th of 2008. And I get some orders right away from friends. Eventually, that first order comes in where I have no idea who the person was. That was a real thrill. But what happens is, my website goes live, and I was out of money. During that year, having not used social media to, get the word out or get to know people, I just kept thinking about all the places that I was going to advertise. I was going to spend money and place banner ads and drive a lot of targeted traffic to my site, and everyone was going to buy, and it was just going to blow up and be huge. And I never got the chance to even try that, because by the time the site was live, I paid a lot of money for a site, a lot of money for setup, a lot of money for shelves and T-shirts. I was out of money. So at that moment, I can't remember if I panicked or what, but I thought, man, what am I going to do here? And I've been hearing a little bit about Twitter on the news, actually. And, I love the internet. I love, chat rooms and forums. So you'd think I would have already tried Twitter, but I hadn't yet. But anyway, I jumped on Twitter. I think it was November 4th, 5 days after my site went live. And it was like, it was like a marriage made in heaven, It was like things just kind of went well from the start. I jumped in and just started talking to people. I started targeting, following people that I thought were interesting. They started following me back. And I started sharing, links that were interesting to me, whether they were in the teacher business or whether they were about the NBA or red wine, whatever I enjoyed, I would share and talk about it. And people started getting to know me a little bit, and I started selling T-shirts using this outreach that, I was doing on Twitter and to a lesser extent on Facebook. So, it's just fantastic how I'm like, wow, Twitter's free. All it takes is my time. And I really enjoy it. This is really awesome. And so fast forward a few months, and I start going to Social Media Club. I don't know if they have Social Media Club in your area, but there are clubs all around the country. And I started going to the meetings in St. Louis and just really enjoyed them. I was meeting like-minded people. I was meeting people that, everyone there has got a smartphone. Actually, except for me, I had a flip phone for the first few months.
Yeah.
And it made so much fun of me. I eventually was like, told my wife, I'm like, well, I can't take this thing there anymore. I need an iPhone. And honestly, it turns out she got one too, and it turns out it's like the best tool. I can't believe I ever lived without it.
Totally agree. Got mine too.
Yeah, mine's upstairs because if anyone calls, I don't want to answer it. I want to talk to you. But so I started going to those meetings and meeting like-minded people. I then joined the board of Social Media Club. Just really enjoy meeting with those people every month and talking about social media issues, and then frankly just hanging out afterwards and having some red wine. So
I want to find out though, the idea is you're working full time, right?
Yeah.
And how are you finding this time to do all these things? And you also have your kids at home and your wife. So let's dive into that part of the discussion.
You bet. So yeah, I've got a wife and two daughters, and back in October 2007, my daughters would have been 3 and less than a year old. So I can't honestly say that's any crazier than now. They're 6 and 3 now. It seems as crazy now. So, it was crazy when they were 5 and 2. So it's always been kind of crazy with those two. I got 2 daughters. They're just nuts, But so I am making time for them. I am not like absentee father. I'm working, I'm working basically at the job. What I'm doing is I'm going there and I'm spending 7:30 to 8 a.m. till 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. It was a demanding job, but it wasn't demanding of my hours per se. There were times where I had to work late if I had a finance committee meeting the next day, or if I had a board meeting the next day, or if I was just behind on something, which happened every now and then. I would work late or I would go in early, but it was nice though. It was a good place to work, and that it really did give me time to spend with my family. But I would come home and, I would, eat dinner with the family as best I could, get my kids to bed, and then I would go back to work. And I would come actually here into this basement. This is Rizzo T's world headquarters here.
Yeah.
And I keep joking, I got to stop doing interviews down here. It's like this weird dark cave, It's not very attractive for an interview, but I would come down here and I would work, and I ended up reading Gary Vaynerchuk's book, Crush It, when it came out, and he talks about that. He talks about it in some of the keynotes that he does. He said, there is no excuse for not, meeting with success, in my opinion, as long as you have a good idea, but as long as you're willing to work for it really, really, really hard, And, my dad might come to me and say, you shouldn't work so hard because you're just going to miss out on, all your kids' young years. And I understand that. He gives incredibly good advice when he says that. So what I tried to do was structure the work around their lives as best I could, so it wasn't interrupting their lives. It's not perfect, Owen. It still interrupts them. My wife's working really hard now. Like, where's mommy? I'm like, she's at work, and they so work's starting to actually take a negative connotation in their head now, and I don't really want that because Lord knows they're going to have to work when they grow up, right? Everyone does.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I tried to structure my work around them as much as possible. So, you know, 7:30, 8 p.m., you know, I would get to work, and I did it here sometimes. Sometimes I did it up at the Starbucks, which is 2 blocks away. Sometimes I would go to the Panera Bread, which is a couple blocks away, any place with Wi-Fi that I could kind of escape. I went to different coffee houses if I got bored with Starbucks, if they got sick of looking at me. I worked sometimes till, 2 and 3 in the morning, you know, and then I would wake up at 6, and, there was a long time, there was over a year probably where I was surviving on kind of like 4 hours of sleep a night, and my body was able to do that. I don't really do that anymore because my body kind of talked to me and said, it's time to catch up on your sleep. And so I've been doing that. I've been doing that a lot better. But while I was building that company, I was staying up very late and just kind of working my butt off.
But I want to ask you too, before we continue, I'm sure there are times where you come home, you're very tired. Maybe even the results you're even getting not moving the way, things are not going the way you want with the business. Where does that energy come from in spite of everything, tiredness, results maybe not as moving as fast as you want it to be?
Yeah.
Where does that energy come from to continue at that time?
I'll be honest. One thing was that I knew that I'd found the right idea. You know, I can imagine if I started that mobile shredding business that there would have been some times where I'd have been so highly discouraged from the idea of, you know, having a $100,000 shredding truck sitting out in front of my house. All my neighbors hate me because there's a truck out there. I have no idea how I'm going to escape my full-time job to go on sales, you know, engagements and all this stuff. With Rizzo Teas, I knew that I had the right idea. I felt it in my heart. It's what, just knowing that motivated me to keep going. The other thing is that I put a lot of money into it. And this is my first business I've started, and I put a lot of money into it. And that's not my money, that's our money. You know, it's my wife too. You know, I'll be honest, fear of failure definitely has something to do with it.
Tell me about that.
Now, on the flip side, hey, I'm no success yet. The company's still in my basement. It still doesn't make enough money that I can quit whatever job. And I wouldn't quit my job now. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about my new job.
Yeah.
I left the other job. But, you know, so fear of failing actually had a great, you know, part to do with it. The third thing, though, and it kind of goes with number one, is that I really was enjoying what I was doing. A lot of the building of the business actually took place on Twitter and Facebook because I was, you know, marketing through those channels, and I really, really enjoy being on Twitter and to a much lesser extent Facebook. So being on there and working, you know, meant just interacting with people and helping people. And I've honestly done Skype calls with people where I've tried to help them through the problems they're having starting their business. It's all unpaid. I just did it because, you know, it's fun to talk about this stuff. It's good, you know, it's good practice to talk about this stuff. And frankly, you know, some of those people went and they made LinkedIn recommendations for me. It's just, all that stuff can just snowball after a while, you know. And so I've just been trying to help as many people as possible and ultimately, you know, help myself through that. So, you know, and also the other thing is that sleep bothers me. It just bores me. I just, you know, I'm not like, I can't do 4 hours of sleep anymore. My body just says, like, wrong, Chris, you got to stop, you know, it's time to go lay down. But I love mornings. Like, I cannot wait to get up and have coffee. I drink coffee 365 days a year. And I love evenings. I drink wine a couple hundred nights a year. So I look forward to evenings and I look forward to mornings. So just being awake, you know, it's like it was time to get to work, you know, and I really, really wanted this thing to succeed. So it really meant everything to me. It's where I drew a lot of the inspiration from.
Okay, so I get that, you know, you had that inspiration from, you know, all the bunch of things you said, you know, before now, but you still have a limited time in a day, and now you have this big picture of things that you need to accomplish. So, you know, how did you choose with your limited time in a day, because you also had work, you had to spend time with your kids, you know, how do you choose which activities for growing the business, you know, made the most sense for you to focus your time on?
Well, let me address family first. Like I said, I really, really tried, you know, as much as possible to spend, you know, quality time with my kids. And, you know, when my first daughter was born back in '04, I had this other job that was actually really stressful, and I didn't spend a lot of time with her helping out with those like crying, sleepless nights and all that stuff. My wife actually had a year off, and she kind of took that entire burden while I made sure I had enough sleep so that I could work. When we had our second child, which was back in ¡07, and at the same time starting this business, I took a completely different tack. I actually jumped in and helped this time. And you'll find out as a husband, you listen to these warning signs, you're like, oh crap, I better jump in there and help a little bit, right? So that's kind of what I did. So, you know, again, the one thing that I tell people, because I get this question a lot, you know, I structure work around other people's sleep. So when they're sleeping, it's probably going to be true that no one else will be bothering me, and that's when you can get stuff done. So I work when other people are sleeping, and my kids are in bed now. My wife's probably not in bed, although she works so hard, by day that she'll probably crash anytime soon. So, you know, it's a matter of working while other people are sleeping. There's so much time available to you. Hours upon hours. I mean, if you start working at 9 p.m., if you can't get to it till 9, but you can somehow stay awake till 3, that's 6 solid hours. And that's not the same 6 hours that you have when you're at your job. Because when you're at your day job, you are constantly getting interrupted. Come into the kitchen, there's cake, it's so-and-so's birthday. Here's a call, here's another call, here's your mail, we got a meeting. Can I talk to you real quick? What's going on? Did you watch Lost last night? I mean, it's just blah, 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 blah. It's just constant. I'm surprised I can get anything done at the job, like the job's work, you know? So many interruptions. But when you're working at night and you're all alone, only you can distract yourself. So, like, if you're like me and Twitter is like such a shiny red ball and you can't stop looking at it, then you have to turn it off. You have to you gotta just hit the X button, and you have to turn off that tab, and you need to get to work. You know, if you're going to write a book, you can't be doing Facebook status, and you can't be G-chatting and Facebook chatting, and then Yahoo IM. You got to turn all that stuff off. And so if you turn all that stuff off, you turn off the TV, and you work from like 9 p.m. to 3 a.m., you got 6 solid hours. That's like 12 hours at a regular job. So that's the one thing that I tell people a lot. And there's a lot of people, and hey man, I'm guilty too. Like I told you, I've been catching up on my sleep. I bought NBA League Pass, so I'm watching NBA games like every night. You know, I can actually get work done on Twitter and Facebook and still watch my beloved Miami Heat with LeBron James and D-Wade, you know. But I will say that, you know, those distractions, you have got to get rid of those as best you can. And Tim Ferriss's book, I don't know if you read that 4-Hour Work Week.
Yes.
I'm telling you, man, not everything in that book is for everybody. Like maybe you can't create that muse that he talks about, doing the CDs where you know, someone in some faraway country shipping them for you. But if you skip those chapters and just read the part about time management, he talked about email, and I didn't exactly follow his advice because I still check email a lot, but man, he talks so much about time management in that book. And so I would highly recommend that book to anybody, because that book completely changed the way I think about taking risks, first of all. Because, like, what's the worst thing that could happen? I mean, if this whole thing doesn't work out, I could still go be a CPA somewhere. And he talks about time management, too. The other thing that I will tell you, and I know you want to talk about this a little bit, what was my workday like at the job?
Yeah.
And I will fill you in on that in detail. Here's what happened. So I start creating this business. And I got so good at multitasking. So, like, tabbed browsing on a browser is like the best thing in the world that ever happened, you know? Because, like, right now,
right? Firefox?
I actually use Chrome now because Firefox started up. Google Chrome is faster, and Firefox started really bogging down for me. But I've got 11 tabs open on that right now. And I actually also use Safari for a different Gmail account. So, I mean, I've got multiple browsers, tons of stuff open. I had, you know, all the programs I used at work, and I cannot, and I said this to David, and I'll say it to you as well, I cannot impress upon you how quickly I learned to work, you know? So I actually shaved out of my day all those distractions. Like, if they were having cake, like, I didn't go eat it, you know? I didn't go and sing happy birthday. And, you know, maybe everyone thought, where is that big jerk? Why isn't he in here? I mean, I was literally working, you know? I was getting as much done as I could as a chief financial officer, and if someone would say hi to me on Twitter, I would say hi back to them. You know, and I often thought about that. I'm like, hey, you know, I wonder if I should be tweeting while I'm at work. Here's the deal. I don't smoke. There are people that smoke, and they're out there and they're smoking. They take 15-minute smoke breaks once an hour.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would see them out there all the time. I'm like, do you even work? So I'm pretty confident saying that I got way more done than those people. And I was working my job, and I was maintaining, you know, a presence on Twitter and Facebook. So, you know, I thought about those things, but at the same time, I knew I was getting my job done. I mean, I wasn't given 150%. I was given 100%, you know, and then I was given the other 50% to my personal interests. And, you know, if you don't think people are doing this stuff at work all the time, you'd be crazy. And I worked with people at that job. I know for a fact that they were doing capital campaigns for their churches and working on all this different stuff. I know this for a fact, you know. I left evidence that I was doing it by tweeting. I mean, it's all timestamps right there.
You can see it. It's public.
You can see it. You can see it for sure, you know. And like, I would get T-shirts printed, and I would drive to the screen printer on my lunch hour. So I would just take my lunch hour and go and pick up my T-shirts, and they'd sit in the back of my car till I got home, and then I've got a little cardboard contraption back there that I actually use to fold them. So you can just fold T-shirts real quick, and it turns it into a perfect little folded shirt. So I'd come home, and my wife actually helped me out a lot with that. So, so to answer your question how I did, I mean, I just worked at an incredibly rapid pace. And I involved myself in all the affairs at work that I needed to be involved in, and I stayed out of the affairs that I didn't belong in. If there was some meeting I didn't belong in, I would say, you know what, you guys can handle this without me. If I needed to be in the meeting, I'd get in there and I would try to run the meeting. Like, let's get this thing over with. There's no need to, you know, talk about what was on The View yesterday or something. Let's get this meeting done and let's get back to work, you know. And so I was getting my work done, my job work, and stuff that related to me personally. I was getting it all done.
And I'm trying to find out too, knowing that you had your business on the side and you were also working, how did that affect you at the job in terms of your relationship with the people at the job? Because I'm thinking your whole mentality now is totally changed. Go ahead, explain how it was for you.
No, that's a really interesting question. So I started this business in my basement back in October of '07. I don't tell anyone that I've done that. I mean, you know, I view that, frankly, in their eyes, as nothing more than a hobby business. I had a hobby. You know, I'm selling T-shirts on my basement, you know. Of course I had dreams of turning it into more than a hobby, but this was my personal business on my personal time. And so I didn't approach anyone and say, hey, by the way, I started this hobby business in my basement. It's called Rizzo Tees. It's funny T-shirts. You should check it out sometime. And I never did that. So, you know, I will confide in you, Owen, that as the time went on, you know, I wondered what would happen if anyone found out that I'd started this business. Again, you know, as long as you're getting your job done, you shouldn't have a problem. And I was getting my job done. Maybe there were projects that took longer than they should. I mean, that's all conjecture. That's all up to whoever. That's all up to my boss. I mean, that's all up to whoever. I mean, I know for a fact that the board of directors was happy, the finance committee was happy, the previous CEO was happy. People were happy. And I actually fully, you know, again, it was a not-for-profit organization. I fully believe in the mission that they are trying to accomplish. It moved me. I mean, I cried when I gave my 5 weeks notice. I mean, I cried right in front of the CEO, you know, and those weren't like fake tears. They were real, you know. Whenever I think about what those people do, I always think about my own family and realize how lucky I am that I'm not in the situation that, you know, these other people were in, that our organization was trying to help. So, sorry, I completely forgot your question. What was your question?
It was how having your own job. I mean, because when you work for companies, they have this whole thing of trying to, you know, train everybody to, you know, we all in a group trying to meet the company goal. And now you have your business on the side. I'm sure it affects you personally and how you relate to the group.
Well, here's what happened. It didn't affect my ability to get work done. It didn't necessarily affect my ability to work with people. I mean, there were good people there. there were complete knuckleheads there too. I mean, there were some stone cold knuckleheads at this place. Oh, all right. And it's for better or for worse, and that's true. I'm not slamming them. That's true of any place.
Everywhere. Yeah.
I mean, any place you work, there's some person you're like, why is that person still here? And the people that work with them know they should go, but no one else seems to know. It's like, what's going on? Do they have dirt on the boss? What the hell's going on at this place? But that's true of any place, except Rizzo Tees. It's only me. There's no employees. So, but here's what really happened with me and the way I felt towards them and towards the job. As those years went on, I mean, as we got into October 2008, I'm still definitely working at the place, and I'm happy. I've been there for, 2.5 years now, still relatively happy. I work close to home. It afforded me the flexibility to come home and be with my family. It wasn't like the job I had before that, where I was working 70 to 80 hours, and it was just incredible, a week, and it was just incredibly stressful. But as we start getting into 2009, and I start, getting a little bit more well-known on Twitter, as I start going to social media club, as I get on the board of social media club, my heart started getting pulled in the other direction. It started getting pulled away from being a CPA and towards, and I don't know what it was getting pulled towards. It was getting pulled towards wanting to do this stuff full-time. Yeah. Except I never, at that time, I can tell you, I never put two and two together. I never said, oh, goodness, you're learning all of these skills and how to work in social media and, draw attention to yourself so you could go do it and you could draw attention to clients, right? That's what marketing and advertising is typically. Never put two and two together and thought, oh, this could be your new career. Because keep in mind, the dream behind Rizzo Tees was to, have it blow up big and be able to leave my life as an accountant, leave life as CPA, and leave that place of business, leave it forever, and be a t-shirt mogul, okay? So what's funny, though, ultimately, is the dream ended up coming true, but in a completely ass-backwards way. I never expected it would turn out that way. My dream wasn't, oh, I'm going to start Rizzo Tees, then get well-known on social media, and then get a job in advertising. I think never would that have ever been my thought, I've always enjoyed advertising. I was actually a chief financial officer at a huge digital marketing agency here in St. Louis back in the day, like 6+ years ago. So, I'd actually worked in the industry just on the finance side. But as my heart started getting pulled away from being a CPA, that job did get harder. It got harder and harder. I started coming home in a worse mood, and I was mistreating, my wife with my bad mood, and then I started mistreating my kids. I had nothing to give when I got home. I had no father to give, and that was hard. Clearly it was hard on them because they were getting the brunt of me being a big jerk face. But for me, it was hard too, just because I wasn't sure how my dream was going to get fulfilled. I mean, Rizzo Tees just wasn't growing fast enough, and I was working my butt off trying to make it happen. But frankly, I needed more money to add new inventory, and money just was kind of tight, and so I wasn't able to add as many shirts as I wanted to along the way. And so it wasn't growing as fast enough. It was still, making a little bit of money, but just not, it wasn't, making enough that I could leave the job. So I don't want to use the word depressed, but I mean, it really started to affect me a little bit. And once something like that starts to affect me, it's really hard for me to get it kind of turned around. So once I started disliking the job a little bit, I started disliking it a lot. And so fast forward all the way to, because this story does have an ending that's rather interesting. Yeah. So fast forward all the way to May of 2010, this year. I had a couple friends that I was just training on social media, just talking to them about, what I believe and what I know, and they told me that I should try to do that for a living. And like I said, it took a few people to tell me before, like, my brain, realized it, And at that point I said, hey, maybe I could go and do this full time, and it wasn't the dream fulfilled exactly as I had it, but it was still the dream fulfilled. It was still that dream. Yeah. I actually have a notebook. I think it's over on the shelf over here, that I actually wrote a plan on how I was going to leave the job. I wrote a full plan out that was like every single step that I needed to take to make Rizzo Tees just blow up and get successful. But the front page was in huge type. It had a date. It said June 1st, 2011.
Wow.
So that was like, and I made it so big and so noticeable because I didn't want to forget how important it was to me and how much work it was going to take. June 1, 2011 was the date that I gave myself, the deadline to leave that job. So all of a sudden it's May 2010 and I get this crazy notion that I can leave being a CPA and go and work in social media, work for a marketing agency. So I send a few emails. I didn't even do a resume. It's the first time ever I didn't put a resume together. And I just sent a couple emails out, and that's it, 2 emails to 2 marketing people here in town that I know. And the emails did not ask for a job. They did not ask for a meeting. All they asked was, I just told them they know who I am. They knew exactly, who I was. We knew each other. And I just said, I'm looking to make a career change. I don't care about money. I just want an opportunity to do this. I want you to just keep your ears open. You're in the industry. If you hear anything, let me know. And one of those guys wrote back to me in 15 minutes and said, we should get together. And that was when I thought, well, what for? I didn't ask for a meeting. Oh, wait. Crap, maybe he's going to offer me a job. My wife's like, come on, slow down, slow down. I'm like, I can't stop thinking about it. This is very exciting, because, again, at this point, I am miserable at the job. I'm just miserable. And, the full-time job, I am just totally, totally miserable. And so, I go and I meet with my friend, Chris Bueller, who's the CEO of Scorch Agency, where I work now.
Yeah.
And he said, we want you to come on board in any capacity you want. They didn't even say, like, we want you to do this. They just said, come on board, whatever you want to do, you can do it. And I said, great, I want to come on and I want to help you with social media and I want to work and try to bring a new business. They said, great. When can you start? And I said, pretty soon. Let me find out, let me think about that, but I'll take the job. And so I called my wife. I said, well, I got a job offer. And it was so exciting. I mean, it was just great. I was so thrilled. And so pretty soon after that, I can't remember exactly how long it was, I went in and I gave notice to my boss. And I said, hey, I'm going to be leaving, and I'm going to be leaving in 5 weeks. So, typically it's 2 weeks notice. Well, I gave 5 weeks notice. I don't know if that's not enough or too much. Who knows? I tried to give as much as possible. And Chris at Scorch was very understanding. I mean, they wanted me as soon as possible. I said, look, I've got to just finish up here. So basically, being miserable didn't quite turn into happiness right away, though. And the reason was I still had 5 weeks left at this place. And there was a lot of work that I just simply didn't want to do. I'll be completely frank with everyone watching this. That's why you quit jobs, because you don't want to do it anymore. And I didn't want to do it anymore, but I did want to be there. I did want to try to get as much done as I could. And I did want the opportunity to train a new person if they could get someone to be their new chief financial officer. I wanted to train that person.
Yeah.
And he said, well, we don't think we can get someone here in 5 weeks. I'm like, well, you should try. You should get an ad out there tomorrow, and you should really try, because I think it's possible. The economy sucks right now.
Yeah, definitely.
There are people out of work. It's entirely possible you will find someone that doesn't need to get any notice at their employer, and they'll be able to come here right away. I'm like, you need to try for your own good. Well, anyway, I'm not sure how hard they tried. I don't know what happened. But anyway, what happened with me was I went back and started doing my work again. There were some tasks that I had to complete that I just was dreading. At the same time, Scorch, my new employer, wanted to do an announcement. They wanted to announce the new position.
Yeah.
So I told my old employer that, and they said, well, can you hold off on that, please? Please wait, because we need to talk with our board of directors and our finance committee. We need everyone to know exactly what's going on. And just please don't do that yet. I said, fine, just let me know when everyone that's important, that needs to know, knows, and then we'll go ahead. You let me know that, and then we'll go ahead and do our thing. So it was like a couple weeks later. It was like 3 weeks later. They finally said, okay, it's cool. Actually, it was 2 weeks later, and then Scorch delayed it for a week because they were trying to get a press release written or something crazy.
Yeah.
So here's what happens. it was a Thursday. Thursday night is night of a social media club here in St. Louis. It's the third Thursday of every month. And we announced, through social media channels and a press release that, I got this new job. We announced it on Thursday morning, the morning of the meeting. The meeting happens at night. And Twitter, like all my friends on Twitter and Facebook and on my blog and everywhere, it just explodes. Everyone is just congratulating me. And it was like this outpouring. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's just this awesome outpouring of support. And I mean, a lot of people knew that I didn't enjoy my job. A lot of people knew that I love social media and that I love interacting with people. So a lot of people knew that it was my dream come true. And I actually wrote a blog post about it that went up. It went up that day, and it was, I got to admit, it was a well-written blog post that really, people told me they had actually been inspired by it. And I'll send you a link to it if you haven't seen it yet. It's really cool. I just said, hey, this ended up being my dream, and a lot of people saw themselves in me. They saw, like, they're doing a job that they don't identify with, that makes them miserable. They don't feel like themselves. They don't feel fulfilled, in their heart. And I changed from being a CPA. I mean, talk about a complete 180-degree turn, So if I could do it, anyone can do it. That's what I tried to convey in the blog post, and that's what I try to convey with anyone that I ever talk to about this. So
definitely. So it's like I'm seeing a trend going on here. It's like you have this dream of taking Rizzo Teas to being a huge business, but in between the process of trying to get to that point, you're learning new skills to help you market your business, and then you find that there's certain things that you like, that you actually love to do in the process of trying to build your business, and now you've finally found a place where you can actually channel that new skills you've learned.
Yes.
In form of a job.
Yes, and that's one piece of advice I would give to your viewers as well, is that, and you're going to hear a lot of people say this, so it might sound cliched or like, oh, this, getting so sick of hearing this, but it's so true. If you have a passion, and you can write a blog about it, or you can do a video blog, or you can do a podcast, or you can mix up all three and get it online, you should do it, because you have no idea where it's going to lead. And I tell people this. If you love vegetables, you should write about vegetables, because you know what? Eventually, Del Monte is going to find you, and they're going to say, we want to advertise on your blog. Or when it comes time to, if you love vegetables, but they have to be organic, and you just write about it all the time, and all of a sudden, Matt Lauer's people from the Today Show call, and they say, hey, we're doing a deal on organic food and how, it's the 20-year anniversary, the people we stopped using DDT, the pesticide. We want you to come on. I mean, you have no idea where that stuff's going to lead. And all you're doing is doing something that you enjoy. Do something that you enjoy with your life. And that's what I did. I mean, I started a business, and I enjoyed myself tremendously. I love interacting with customers. I love when people don't get their shirts and I have to deal with it. I mean, I just love dealing with business problems and dealing with business successes. I love it. And I love writing and being on social media and talking about it. So those things led me to where I wanted to be. But what I tell people, though, is that, just because you think, oh, I can't monetize that, who's going to want to hear about vegetables? You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Everything is findable on Google. Everything is searchable, indexable, and findable, and readable, and spreadable, and shareable. All on Google. I don't even care about Bing. It's all about Google, right?
Yeah.
So if you could get that stuff out there, and if you care enough about it, I mean, you just have no idea what's going to happen. And I mean that quite literally. You don't know what's going to happen, but you'll never find out if you don't try. So I had no plan to do an interview with you tonight. I love doing these things. I had no plan on getting interviewed by David Siteman Gall. I mean, I was watching his show and he was having, Tim Ferriss and Gary Vaynerchuk. I mean, what's he doing talking to me? I had no idea I had no idea I would ever make that guy's show. And I didn't even meet you till I went on a show. You just have no literal idea what's going to happen. That's why 1, 3, and 5 year plans, I don't even bother with that stuff anymore. I'm just, I got a week plan. I got stuff to do the next week, and I have no idea what door that'll open. The last thing I do want to say, and we can talk as long as you want, but you got to hear the end of this story, though. So that Thursday, it gets announced, the blog post goes up, and then that night we got Social Media Club. So not only has it been all over Twitter, but then all the people that are on Twitter are at this meeting. I mean, honestly, if there were 100 people at this meeting, 2 people didn't know I had a new job, and the other 98 knew. So it was like people just coming up, congratulations. I mean, it was just like such a weird outpouring of awesomeness. It was such a good night. Honestly, it was one of the best days of my life. And then the next day I got fired.
At the other job.
The next morning, wow. I got fired from my job.
Wow.
So it was like, and great. I was already leaving the job, but best day of my life, you're fired the next day. Well, and so, so basically, and that was with 2 weeks left. I had 2 weeks left to go. They didn't have anyone else in new. I hadn't really shared anything with anyone as far as like, here's the password to get in this account. Here's the password to do this. Here's how you log into the government system to draw down money on our federal earmark. Like, here's how to do this super important stuff. Here's how to drawdowns from the government for like thousands of dollars. I never showed anyone how to do that because we still had 2 weeks left, you know? And so what happened was the blog posts got read by someone at my work, and then I guess they saw that I tweeted, and they pulled me into the office and they said, you know, you have a lot left to do. How did you have time to tweet so many times yesterday? And I just looked at them like, I didn't say anything. I didn't get combative. I just sat there, and they just said, well, today's your last day. Or they said, and in fact, they said, this is your last hour. Get out.
Wow.
And I said, okay. So I went back to my office, and someone followed me there, and they watched me as I used a knife to take pictures of my children off the wall that I had scotch taped up on the wall. Mm-hmm. They watched me take pictures down off the wall. They sat there. I tried to go down under my desk to my computer and turn it off, just like turn everything down. While I was in there getting fired, they had sent someone in to turn all that off. They thought I was like such a dangerous weapon with the computer. They turned it off, you know? And I never even got a chance to say goodbye to the person that worked for me. I had one person that worked for me, this great woman, awesome hard worker. Never even got a chance to say goodbye to her. They just said, get out. And so that was it. I grabbed my stuff and I was out of there, and I've honestly never talked to anyone there since. Anybody. No one wrote me and said, nice working with you. Nothing. And I was nice to work with. They must have said that I was like stealing or something. It was just crazy. It just was such a weird, odd feeling. It was like I said, you quit jobs because you don't want to be there anymore. But, you know, at the same time, it would have been nice to like, say goodbye to a few people at least. Definitely. You know, and so it just was a weird thing. I mean, I think most human beings would agree it's best not to get fired, you know. So it wasn't the ending I wanted. I mean, but it happened, and you know, it's actually a story I haven't really told on camera. I've told just select people, but you know, it was easy to accept, I guess, because I only had 2 weeks left there anyway. Like I came home and my wife was really upset. She's like, you burned a bridge. And I go, well, you know, they wouldn't have been happy anyway. I mean, eventually they would have found out. Mm-hmm. I mean, because they had trouble computing, I think, in their head how I was leaving a job as a CPA to work in marketing. Well, all that stuff they found out, oh, he tweets, he's on Facebook, he writes a blog about business, he writes, you know, all that stuff makes sense then. And so they would have found that stuff out anyway, right? They just would have found out eventually, and so eventually they would have hated my guts anyway. So whether I burned the bridge 2 weeks before I left or it got burned 6 months after I left, eventually there were going to be some hurt feelings, and ultimately they were probably thinking, like, how hard did Chris really work at this job? Well, that's, in my opinion, baloney. I worked my butt off there. You know, I worked really hard, you know, and I tried to represent us in the community as best I could. I still talk about the organization with anyone that will listen. I don't want to use the name of it, you know, in this interview, but I still talk about it. But I just would have rather not gotten fired. That kind of sucked, I guess.
Definitely. So let's end on a high note for that current entrepreneur that, you know, starting his business and is still working on, you know, on a full-time job. What would be that few things that you would tell them in regards to getting on with that journey of being that successful entrepreneur that they want to be? What are those things that you want us to live with them, you know, at the end of the interview today?
I think what I would tell your viewers is, like I said, number one, if there's any subject matter that you really, really enjoy, you should attempt to build an online portal, an online website that allows you to put forth what you believe. Like I said, if you love snakes, you should write a snake blog and you should record videos. You should go to the zoo and say, hey, I want to do I want to do behind the scenes video. Can like one of those guys bring one of those huge pythons out? And before you know it, you're on video with this huge python, and it's extremely interesting to your viewers. And then before you know it, like pet food stores, like Petco want to advertise on your blog.
Yeah.
You can do this. That stuff happens. And Gary Vaynerchuk talks about it in his book, Crush It, quite a bit. And that book's a really easy read, and man, I'm telling you, there's a lot of good stuff in there, so I would recommend it. So the first thing I would recommend is don't avoid doing things that you love, but don't wait either. Don't wait. There's no time like the present. If you want something bad enough, you need to stay up late while everyone else is sleeping and do it. And the last thing I would recommend, and I'm obviously highly biased towards Twitter and Facebook, but you should be on both. You should do Twitter, Facebook, blog, and I guess LinkedIn if you absolutely have to. I'm still trying to figure out how to use it. I've got a ton of contacts, and if I ever lose my job, I guess I'll jump on there. That's the big joke with LinkedIn. But I would do those 4 platforms, and don't freak out if someone else is doing some different. Those are the 4 big ones. Concentrate on those. Put your best content on your blog. At the very least, use Twitter and Facebook to drive traffic to your blog. If you're doing something online, do those 4 things, and don't go to sleep until you're satisfied with what you've done for the day.
Thank you very much. Hey, Chris, I really appreciate you coming on the call. The interview to share this insight with my audience. And before you go, I want you to share with them how exactly can they get in touch with you.
Sure. So my company's website is rizzotees.com, RIZZOTEES.com. If anyone wants to email me, you can do it to the Contact Us link there. I'm also on LinkedIn as Rizzo Tees. On Twitter, my handle is Rizzo Tees. And on Facebook, I got a Facebook fan page, and it's facebook.com/TheRealRizzoTees.
Oh, wow. Why the Real Rizzo Tees? Someone stole the other one?
I think someone maybe did, or I might have screwed up when I set it up. But it was that, they did those vanity URLs, and it started at midnight. And so I was up at 12:01, and I'm like, it won't take Rizzo Tees. What's going on? How should I handle this? I'm like, screw it, I'll just do the Real Rizzo Tees and go from there.
I understand. Thank you very much, Chris, for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time. Appreciate it.
Oh, man, I thank you. Thank you so much, Owen.
Thank you very much. So now, the interview.
So welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I really want to know what exactly you think. If I suck, and if I'm not doing a good job, I want to know. Because by your input and your comments, your suggestions, your feedback, that's how I'm going to improve on the entire package of what I'm sharing with you. I really want to improve so that you know that your time is well spent when you watch my videos. And if I do good on interviews, and if you like certain things I do, please let me know so I can even improve upon that as well. And I want to thank you really because your time is well spent, and your time is important to me, and I want to make sure that I continuously put this information in front of you. So I want you to join my community. And in order to do that, you need to click on the link that says get the free ebook, enter in your name and email, and you will receive as a gift from me my free ebook titled The Entrepreneur's Guide to Running a Business in the Cloud. The reason I do that is because I want to share with you that information. You can check it out and make use of it in your business. In the same vein, I will be sending you email updates every time I have new blog posts, as well as if I have new stuff that is not even on the blog, I want to share with you. That way we can stay in contact. One more thing. Before you go, I want to also let you know that if you are really serious about finding, hiring, training, and even working with virtual assistant, if right now you want to get that started, why don't you sign up for my free webinar where I share everything about the entire process. And you can get to do that by clicking on the link on the very top of my blog where it says sign up for the free webinar. Again, thanks for watching the video, and I hope to see you next time.